Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Blue Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Lieutenant Joe Pangaro. So recently, I've been trying to do a series of, I don't know if they're not public service announcements for all of us in law enforcement, but they are to help us understand some of the common things in life that can help us do better. So we had Ron on a couple of weeks ago talking about life insurance and how important it is to have life insurance, right? Well, I have another really good friend who is a trusted friend. He's a retired law enforcement guy, and that would be Retired Lt Matt Sharin. So I'm going to bring Matt on here in a second, but he's going to talk about homeowners insurance and car insurance. Now, as part of a plan for life, having good insurance is extremely important. And the key is you want to pay the appropriate price, because we all know you have to pay for insurance, but you want to get the right insurance. So I'm going to bring Matt in here. Matt, how are you?
Hey, Joe. Good morning.
All right. So we're talking to the men and women of law enforcement, family and friends, and those who love them, because there's a lot of people that listen to the channel that also are family members, and they're interested in what their family member law enforcement person is doing. So I was telling everybody that you're a broker. That's correct?
Yes, sir.
A broker for homeowner and auto insurance. What is the difference between a broker and an agent? Let's start right there.
So the primary difference is a broker works for you. So they're not tied to a company. They don't have a fiduciary responsibility to the company. They work for you. They serve your needs and shop those needs across any of the carriers they contract with. So essentially, we're going to look at your situation, and we're going to find carriers that match you instead of trying to shove you into one of the boxes available at the company that I work
at. Outstanding. All right. So where did you serve as law enforcement?
So I did 25 years with the Borough of Deal in Monmouth County. And,
yep.
That was a wonderful experience. But once I was done, I said I had to move on. I wanted to spend a lot more time with my family and the girls. I found this when I was looking for something else where I felt like I could contribute and give back. The retired life wasn't everything I thought it would be, in that it wasn't rewarding anymore. I had all the free time. I had all the travel I wanted to do, lots of time with my kids, but I felt like there was something missing. So I decided to go back to work. And so I found myself here, again, helping people, making sure that they've got good coverage, making sure they're not getting ripped off, and, get that feeling of satisfaction back, like I'm giving back to the community.
That's great. And one of the things I want everybody to understand is I've known Matt a long time. I knew his dad, who was also a cop that I worked with. Very good and decent family, trustworthy, and that's important. You go to an insurance agent, sometimes it's like going to a car dealer. You don't know if they're out there for you, if they're out there for them. And I like when Matt was explaining to me that as a broker, he represents you. And then he goes and finds the insurance that's best for you. An agent sells you what they have. So if I go to Happy Town Insurance, he's only going to sell me Happy Town Insurance. It might not be the best for me, right? So that's why it's better to get a broker in these things than an agent. I got that correct, right?
That's exactly it. When you come to me and you're like, hey, first thing I'm going to say is, let's take a look at your deck page. Let's look at the coverage you currently have. Make sure first off that you're actually covered. The last thing you want to do is be paying for insurance that's not actually meeting your needs, or on the other side, paying way too much for coverage that you maybe don't.
Right.
So looking at your policy and making sure that it matches your risk profile, that's where we want to be. We want to take a look at that first and make sure you've got the appropriate coverage. And then the next step is looking out at the broader market and making sure your rates are competitive.
Yep. So a couple of weeks back, Matt and I met and we were talking about this, and I said, for me personally and my father-in-law, we need to change our stuff. And I was very happy with the conversation, so much so I went on social media and I put out a blast. Hey, anybody who's looking for something better, I got a guy. It's one of the, I got a guy that's going to help you. And I know a couple of my friends, my personal friends, non-law enforcement, reached out to Matt. And after a couple of days, they were banging me back with emails and calls. This guy's great. He did the right thing. He did the right thing. So that's why I'm bringing him to you. It's trustworthiness is hard to find somebody. So, Matt, you said the right coverage. I think this is important. Are there pitfalls that people fall into picking the wrong thing for homeowners insurance or car insurance? Where do people make their problems?
Well, I think the first issue is that we collectively, have a lot of misinformation out there. We get a lot of our insurance knowledge either from past mistakes we've made, stories we heard from other people, or, ironically, commercials on TV. You know, so there's a couple of things I always tell people. It's like, hey, when I'm presenting this to them and they're, hey, but I'm bundled together with this company. I'm like, well, that's great. You're saving money compared to what that company offers individually. But it doesn't mean that you're actually saving money because your best rate for homeowners policy might be over here. Your best rate for your auto policy might be with a different company. And the difference between that savings could often be way more than the discount for bundling. So there's a
Excellent.
lot of misinformation where people are like, well, I'm bundled together, so I'm saving. You're getting a discount, but it doesn't mean you're getting the best rate. And
Right.
so that's my job is to show them those options.
And that's why I came to you, because a couple of years ago, I had homeowners, I had my car insurance, and I was with this company for a very long time. And all of a sudden they decide, after 20 something years, I didn't have an accident, I have a problem. We decided we're letting 20% of our people go, you're out. And now I'm searching around. So I spoke with, I guess, an agent who bundled me up, my homeowners and my car insurance, and added an umbrella policy, extra $1 million coverage on everything. And it sounded great, but I only knew because that's what the agent was telling me. So that's why I'm sending my stuff to you to figure out, am I getting the best prices, right?
Right. And sometimes umbrella policies are really important. It depends on your situation. If you've got a pool and young kids and lots of people over all the time, having that extra liability coverage might be really important. But if you've got, single family house and you're not, having guests over all the time and a small property, you don't have a lot of assets that you necessarily want to protect, $1 million might be way too much. And, that's something individual basis we look at and say, what meets your needs? Like, what are
Right.
your risks? What are your exposures? And how can we help you there?
And just hearing you say that is refreshing, because you think, okay, I want $1 million umbrella. The agent's going to go, hey, there's more commission. Of course, you're going to have $1 million. You might not need it. So I like that you say that. So let me ask I don't know anything about insurance as we go forward. You said a swimming pool. If you put in an above ground pool, you already have insurance, and then you put in an above ground pool. Are you covered by your current insurance, or do you got to notify the insurance company?
You have to notify them. One of the biggest pitfalls, we see it's, looking for coverage is, do you have pools? Do you have a trampoline in your yard? And make sure those things are on your policy if you have them. If you have a dog, God forbid the dog bites somebody, gets out, there's a problem. Dog is not on your policy. You didn't disclose. That's a major issue. Even for myself, when I was getting, looking at homeowners insurance for myself, I had a great rate with a carrier. And they were like, you get down to the questions at the end, and they're like, well, what kind of dog do you have? I've got a rescue. It's a mix. And they're like, does he have any terrier? Is he, part pit bull? And I'm like, he is. They're like, we don't cover that. They would not cover that kind of dog. And I'm like, okay. And I had
So
to
there's
find
different
another company.
rates for the kind of dog you have?
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the risk. It's an exposure. They are worried that, dog bites somebody or there's an issue. And so there are certain dogs that are either completely excluded or treated differently. Like you have to have certification for the dog. Everybody's got their own requirements.
Yeah.
And
So that's important, right? To know
yeah,
that. What about, I decide I'm pretty handy. Me and my brother-in-law are going to build a deck off the back of my house. Do I got to notify somebody? Hey, I just built this deck, even if it's, not 20 feet off the ground. I did construction at my house. So I have to notify and upgrade.
well, one of the bigger things is, do you have liability insurance that covers that risk? Like, let's say you got hurt, or not you. Let's say your brother-in-law got hurt working on that deck, or somebody falls off the deck. It's like, where's your liability insurance? It's the construction project itself, is not necessarily like you're going to call up and be like, hey, I'm going to do work at my house. You already have to have that coverage in place, like liability coverage that meets, your risk level. And if you're
Right.
going to be doing work there, you're going to be using power tools and other people are going to be doing stuff. It's like, do you have workman's comp? You know, if you've got a contractor over there, they're doing work. It's like, do you
That's
have workman's
important.
comp coverage, extra supplement?
And
And
I
some
think
policies include it.
what I was thinking was that is I build the deck. Me and my
Mhm.
brother-in-law, we build the deck. He knows what he's doing, and we put the right screws into place. And then at some point, a piece of that deck falls apart, and somebody falls off of it. That has to be covered specifically, right? So you have to notify. I have this deck, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, well, when you write out a policy, yeah, they want to know, you know, all the features. They want to know, you know, do you have decks? Are they porches, enclosed porches? Do you have fireplaces? Do you have, you know, and if you go making changes to your house, but you haven't told them, and that specific thing becomes the liability that causes the loss, you know, you're in a situation where if they drop you, maybe they say we're not covering because you didn't disclose to us this new risk.
Right. Okay. So let's look at some other scenario. Here's one that I always heard of my whole life. I live on a block that has township sidewalks. And over the course of the years, the tree out front, the township tree, has grown up, cracked the sidewalk, and it's standing up and down. And somebody trips on that hunk of concrete that belongs to the town, but it's in front of my house. Do I have to be covered for that? Am I liable?
So one of the weird things, and I guess we've learned this more from the law enforcement side, the sidewalk, although it is public, the sidewalk, you know, is the responsibility of the homeowner to maintain. When those cracks are there, the town's going to come and they're going to, you know, if they go and look, they can issue fines. You know, they're going to, you didn't maintain it. It's, yeah, you're saying their tree, they're this, their sidewalk, but it's on your property. It's on a public easement, but it's on your property.
Now,
So
does the insurance?
that's covered under your regular liability coverage.
It is. Okay, so that's built in, right? You have a sidewalk, they know about it, you're already covered.
Yeah.
But you have to maintain it. So, but if you don't maintain it,
Uh-huh.
how's the insurance going to feel about that when somebody trips and breaks their face?
Well, unfortunately, you know, that's where you come into, you know, losses and dealing with, are they going to renew you? Are they going to treat you differently now because you were contributory in this loss? But those are part of, you know, that's why we have insurance when something bad happens. And
Right.
we're paying for that liability coverage, but we don't want to be responsible either. You know, it's sort of like a car accident, right? Like we have the insurance because we have not the money to pay out if we need to replace my car or somebody else's car. You know, we're
Sure.
paying for that insurance coverage.
All right,
With
so let me ask you this, and this is a question. I have say I have the basic New Jersey car insurance, and then I cause an accident, and the resultant loss is more than my basic insurance. Can I then jump to my homeowners and go, well, my homeowners will pick up another 150,000? Does it work like that or no?
well, that's where an umbrella policy would come in for liability. Um, your coverage levels on your auto insurance are important because if you cause property damage or you know you have another loss over there and you don't have an umbrella policy, you could be out of pocket. And you could be out of pocket significantly. One of the examples I always say is when I'm looking at somebody's policy, especially if they've shopped it themselves, oftentimes they have very small, sometimes as low as $25,000 property damage. And that's a really big mistake because when you hear property damage, you think, what if I hit a mailbox? What if I back into, you know, a sign? But that's not what that covers. What that covers is telephone pole, you know, with the utilities, the traffic light. When you take out one of these pieces of infrastructure that could have fiber optics on it, transformers on it, you could be looking at, you know, $100,000 in damage.
Wow.
And when that comes down and you've got $25,000 worth of coverage, you're out of pocket for the rest. You're liable. And people don't realize that that's what that specific thing covers.
Right.
So, and the cost is not that much. Like it's a really small incremental change where, you know, people are like, oh yeah, I'm just saving money picking the smallest options. And they're really doing a disservice to themselves. So
Right.
that's where
Now,
the education portion becomes more important than, you know, closing that sale.
and that's right. And that's why I'm having you on here. So the idea of an umbrella policy, I just got this about 4 or 5 years ago.
Mhm.
And the way I understood it was I have car insurance, I have homeowners insurance, I have all kinds of other things going on. And if whatever I'm affected by, whether I have a car accident, I have somebody fall off my deck, something like that, if I reach the limits of the coverage for the individual policy, the umbrella policy then jumps in and offers me coverage up to that maximum, whatever I bought, 500,000, 1,000,000, 5 million. Is that correct?
That is essentially how an umbrella policy works. Where they really tailor those, though, is umbrella policies very often come with certain minimums that you have to maintain on your auto and your home policy. So you have to have a certain base level of liability coverage before they will write you an umbrella policy. So
Okay.
you can't
Now,
just say, I'm going to get the cheapest auto and cheapest homeowners and then an umbrella to make up the difference. They want you to have a solid base of insurance first, and then they will supplement that.
and that's good to know, because I don't think a lot of people have umbrella policies. Maybe in law enforcement we have them more than everybody else, but you have to have that basic level that they demand your agency, whoever you go with. So I think a big thing for a lot of us is, if you're active duty law enforcement, you carry your off-duty gun. If you get involved in something as a law enforcement officer, active duty, you're covered by, department and all that kind of thing. What about a guy like me, retired, and I have my RPO, and I'm out there, and something happens, and I don't have this specific carry insurance? Is my umbrella going to jump in there and help me?
That is a specific policy question that really, we would have to look at the exact terms of your umbrella to see whether or not that would be included. I know it's been a big issue, a lot of retired guys talking about it, and they want to know, it's like, the state says we have to have liability insurance. And now I know the PBA's got something with the local 600 guys, but going out and finding it on your own is not a very common product right now in New Jersey. New Jersey is a very litigious state. It's why our rates are where they are. Cars have
Right.
gotten up in value. Cars are packed full of electronics these days, so the repair costs are up, and the likelihood of a lawsuit, coming after an accident are really high in our state. So, making sure we have good coverage is important. And
Right.
then on the flip side, it's making sure that we're getting the best rate. Like I said, we have a lot of carriers out there that look at you, look at me, and they see two totally different people, even though we're both retired police officers. It's
Right.
like, I've got kids, I've got cars, I've got one car. It's very, how do you fit into their particular model is
Right.
how they're going to rate you. And
Well,
so if
I
they
think
rate
that
you,
that's
if
important to know, because everybody's individual is what you're saying. So
that's it.
you have to
And
go and get your stuff reviewed.
each individual, you're going to find a space, you're going to find a home with one of these companies, and you're going to get the best rate with them because you match, what they're looking for as an ideal client. And, it might not be the same company for auto as home, but there's a right match out there. There is a best rate with the same coverage. And, that's my job, is to find those for you. And I have to say, like, ironically, I told more people, you've got great coverage already. Or, terribly sorry, but your driving record is, such that we can't, find you a more competitive rate. You have to wait, once those accidents come off, we'll shop you again. So it's like giving people either good news or bad news is also part of it. It's not just about making sales. In fact, very often it's more just educating them. It's like, hey, this is what you need to do. This is where you need to be, and we'll circle back and see if we can help you again later. But right now, you've already got a great thing, or right now you need to take care of it.
Matthew, that is excellent. And that, my brothers and sisters out there, is why I brought Matt on, because you know what? You can trust him. He's one of us. He's on the job, and he'll honestly tell you, you have a good policy. Don't bother changing, right? He's not there just to sell you. He's there to do the right thing, which is unique, I think, out there in the world of people that sell you things. So I wanted to bring Matt on and have you reach out to him. Now, right, Matt, you cover New Jersey right now, you personally, but you have other people in your organization, which is Independence Insurance out of Jackson is who you're working for. You have people that cover Pennsylvania, New York as well, right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So right now I'm licensed in New Jersey. There are other people that are licensed in other states, but primarily, we're focused on New Jersey, and kind of that's where my focus is. Trying to get all of that in order and make sure that I'm as educated as I can be about the dynamics of New Jersey, and I'm not trying to spread myself too thin where I'm actually not of value to everybody.
Well, I think that's great. So out there, New Jersey cops, retired cops, family members, Matt's the guy to go to. All right. If you want to look in New York, Pennsylvania, other states, reach out to him as well, and he'll make sure you get somebody who is just as good and decent as him. All right. So I'm going to give you, it's going to be in the notes of the show, how to reach out, how to email Matt. I'm going to give it to you now. I'm giving you a couple seconds to pick up your pencil, or your crayon, or whatever you write with. And we're going to look at Matt, M-A-T-T, at Indy, I-N-D-Y, insurancenj.com. Matt at indyinsurancenj.com. It'll be in the notes of the show. You can reach out to him. I've already had family and friends reach out, and they've been very happy with them. Take care of yourselves, everybody. Make sure you are covered. You know, the worst thing you can have happen is some kind of a thing where you're financially wiped out because you didn't have the right insurance. And we don't always think of that, especially when we're younger. You know, we're busy doing our thing. We're running around. Make sure you get the right coverage. This is extremely important. So, Matt, I want to thank you for being here. It was very nice to talk to you.
Yeah,
All right,
I
everybody.
appreciate you having me. Have a great day.
Of course. I hope everybody reaches out. And like I said, trust, honesty is what we need in this kind of stuff. So that's why Matt's here. All right, everybody. We'll see you down the road. Remember, be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. Oh, and hey, like and share this, right? Pass this around. People should subscribe to this channel. See ya.